On this episode, we discuss some of the quirks and questions we have about Bangkok's transportation network.
So if you've ever rode a train, a boat, or a bus and wondered why it doesn't fit together just a little bit better, you'll love this episode of the Bangkok Podcast.
Sawadee krap, and welcome to the Bangkok Podcast. My name is Greg Jorgensen, a Canadian who came to Thailand in 2001 to research my new book on cold weather survival skills, but for some reason have not gotten past the first chapter.
All right, I'm Ed Knuth, an American who came to Thailand on a one-year teaching contract almost 23 years ago, fell in love with eating out for less than the cost of cooking at home, so I never left. And
you don't have to do dishes.
Oh, that's right.
It's a mega win.
When you have a maid, right, and you can let them pile up for a week, right? But I always thought it was funny when I would ask Thai people. A lot of Thai people don't cook at home. Obviously, some do, of course, but a surprising number of Thai people don't cook at home, and often they'll say something like, "Oh, it's kind of expensive," and I'm like, "That's not how we think of it back home."
No, I think it's more of a Thai food takes a lot of work, and the utensils and the cutlery and all the things you need to make it. Your kitchen looks like a bomb went off when you're done.
True that. We also don't. I guess it depends on where you are in back home. Yeah. But we don't have like the street food culture. Like here, you've got you've got proper restaurants and then street food, and obviously that does exist in various places in other countries. But here, it's just a different type of eating, and it's generally freaking delicious, but it's just, you're not in a nice place. You might be sitting on a little plastic stool, but it's cheap and it's delicious.
Right. I'm down with it.
Agreed. All right. We want to give a big thanks to all of our patrons who support the show. Patrons get every episode a day early, behind the scenes photos of our interviews, a heads up to send questions to upcoming guests, and access to our Discord server to chat with me, Greg, and other listeners around the world. But best of all, patrons also get an unscripted, uncensored bonus episode every week where we riff on current events and Bangkok topics. On this week's bonus show, we answered some questions sent in by listeners about the ongoing political dance that's happening in Thailand, some unique requirements that Greg needs to think about as he gears up for a trip to visit family in Canada, and some discussions on the unique subculture around flight attendants and why the job is perceived so differently here than it is back home in the West. To learn how to become a patron, click the support button at the top of our website.
You know it. And as always, if you have a comment, a show idea, or just want to say hi, head to BangkokPodcast.com and click the little microphone button on the bottom right to leave us a voicemail that we'll play on the show. All right. On this episode, we take inspiration from a Bangkok Post article we saw recently talking about Bangkok's missing link. Now that is a brand new train line that comes close to offering full convenience to passengers, but misses the mark due to a bizarre oversight that doesn't make any sense on the surface. Now it got us to thinking about transportation infrastructure in Bangkok and Thailand and how it excels, how it falls short, and some suggestions we might make to improve it. Now fair warning, this will also come with a little bit of a dose of us doing some mild bitching and moaning about topics which we understand are very complicated. But come on, other cities have seamless transport networks. Why not us? So Ed, what do you think about this topic?
Well, I think it's a great topic. I don't want to be too harsh because just as an intro, I actually think public transportation in Bangkok and even in the whole country is really pretty good. I mean, especially since we've gotten here and the expansion of the MRT and the BTS. You and I have talked about how it's changed over the last 20 years. And then, of course, there is like an incredibly extensive rail network, which I don't use as much as I should. So I think Thailand deserves like a grade of maybe a B or B plus when it comes to public transportation in general, at least today. Maybe not in the 90s, but I mean, I think today it's not bad. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I think the existing trains, even if it was only the original two lines, the Sukhumvit line and the Silom line, they're fast, they're clean, they're safe, they're well lit, they're efficient, they're hardly ever late. So yeah, I think
Yep.
they're really, really good. And as we've said on the show before, I think over the next 5, 6, 7, 8 years, the rail network in Bangkok is going to be huge. And
Right.
we can do another show on this. Actually, I think it's going to be so big, it's going to get so big so fast that even people like you and me who have lived here most of our lives will be in the dark. Like, I don't know what station is on the far end of the yellow line or the
Interesting.
purple line, And,
Right.
there's going to be a lot of people here who are like lapped by the
Right.
development of the train
Interesting.
system here.
Yeah, no, yeah. So, I mean, that's how I want to start off. I think public transportation here is not bad.
Yeah.
But that being said, there's some just curious lapses and weird gaps that I just don't understand. And as another caveat, let me say for some of the points that Greg and I bring up, there might be some engineering or scientific reason why this doesn't really make sense. And so just remember, like, in general, we have no idea what we're talking about. We're not experts in transportation or engineering or anything. So there may be some technical reasons why some of the things we talk about are not possible. So we're just speculating here, but we're going to bring up 5 or 6 almost mysteries, like just things we're curious about that seem odd that they don't exist.
Right. I think that's a good point because, like I've said on the show again, but I've said this before, 95% of the time when I think like this system is stupid, it doesn't work the way it should, it's dumb, it's silly, 95% of the time, the problem is me. I'm the idiot.
Right.
I'm misunderstanding something. So I think
Right.
there's a very
Right.
high likelihood that some of the things we're going to mention here, there's probably a very good reason why it didn't work the way we think it should have worked, but maybe not. I don't know.
But I want to know. So if listeners out there, if you know why certain things don't exist that we think should, please let us know because it's part of my education. I really want to know.
Yes,
So anyway,
exactly.
Go ahead, Greg. You want to start us off?
Well, the first one that comes to mind is, of course, the strange almost connections between new BTS and MRT lines. So that is when a new line gets made here, it gets connected to an existing line several times over the past years, including in this missing link article we saw in the Bangkok Post recently. There's like this bizarre 1 kilometer, 2 kilometer gap where you have
Right.
to take a bus or walk or a skywalk or something like that.
That's
And
right.
And the obvious question is, guys, why don't you just connect the things?
Yeah, I mean, and again, there's specific examples of this, but I think there's enough specific examples that it's worthy of a general point. And I think I know why this happens, but my explanation is not a justification. The bottom line is the BTS and the MRT are funded in weird ways. Each line is really a totally independent project, like financed completely independently. And in general, which I didn't know this, what the Thai government does is they form a partnership with private companies who essentially fund it. Like, so expanding the BTS and MRT is so unbelievably expensive, to build those. Imagine like driving those pylons into the ground and imagine the expense. So we're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars, maybe even billions, I don't know, to build some of these lines. So my understanding is the Thai government does not pay for those. They don't. Like, what they do is they make a deal with a private company, and the private company does this massive infrastructure investment, and then basically they get the money. Like, so essentially, so the Thai government does essentially these public-private partnerships where private companies say, we'll build this thing for us, but then we get 30 years of the fares.
Right, yeah.
That's basically why this happens. So all of this expansion is not coming straight from the coffers of the Thai government. It's coming from these public-private ventures. So I think each of these like rails, each of the red line, the blue line, the yellow line, the green line, like the pink line, like all of these things are almost like separate companies. So we think of it as like, oh, it's the BTS or it's the MRT, and there are these overseeing agencies. And of course, when you build a line, they do look at a map and look at all the other stations, and of course it has to get approved and go through a million steps, but it's not actually an integrated plan. It should be.
Right.
Like, so that's why you get these bizarre situations where you get a new line that comes in and then there's 2 stops that, like you said, are like a kilometer away, and it would be so convenient if they were connected, and you're like, why is there not a connection? Why is there not a connection? So my explanation is not a justification. I think it's because there's no universal rail project. There's no like public transportation is not a single plan in Bangkok.
I think what we're used to, where we come from, is that it's usually handled by the city, the local government, as a sort of public works project to improve the city. Whereas here, it's more like a private company, like you said, and they're not beholden to anyone. They're beholden to the shareholders. So
true that, but I mean, they're making a deal. I mean, they're they are beholden to the city in that they're agreeing to do something according to certain specs.
So they'll build something, and they're like, "Hey, why don't you connect to this line?" And they're like, "Well, that sounds like that line problem, not a this line problem."
That's right. Yeah, they're right. I think that's what's going on.
Yeah,
which is not good. So I mean, I think that I think that the city or the BMA, whoever has to approve these things, it's like they should be stricter about coordinating one line to another.
Yeah.
In other words, they're basically, to state it bluntly, there just should be more connections between different lines.
Yeah, exactly. And we'll link to this article in the show notes. But basically what this one boils down to is that the new yellow line is going to connect to the blue line. Okay, that's great. But if the yellow line just went 1.7 kilometers further, I understand that's very expensive, but if it went 1.7 kilometers further, it would have been able to connect to the blue line and the green line. But they didn't.
I see.
They stopped at the blue line. And now if you're on the green line, you can't just transfer to the yellow line. You have to transfer to the blue line first and then transfer again to the yellow line. And people are like, whoa.
That's right. Yeah. I mean, there's a fair number of these things that once you get into the details, you just see that this is not like, obviously the lines have to be coordinated with each other, but the idea is there's not like one unifying plan. It's not like there's one authority that governs over all of this stuff and makes sure it all makes sense.
Right.
It's more like it's honestly more like 15 different companies that are the kind of coordinating, but not in the way that is best for the public.
Yeah, they're like subsidiaries of a parent company, but they're still competitors with each other, and they want to be the one on top.
That's right.
Yeah. What's the next one? We're going to go through the short list.
Okay, I'll do the next one. You and I have talked about how extensive the Thai railway system is. It's kind of shockingly extensive and shockingly cheap. And you and I have both talked about how we like to travel by train and we don't do it enough.
Right.
But all of that being said, the technology involved and the cars, and I'm not an expert in railroads, but when you get on a Thai train, you kind of feel like, okay, this is 1970s technology, maybe even 1960s. I don't know. I mean, it's like you're getting on a old school railroad. Like this is not, and it's fine for what it is, and it's very popular in Thailand. Many people travel by train. Again, I like to travel by train. I probably should do it more, but I'm on board with high-speed rail. Like I just think that, when you go to a country like Japan and you actually experience high-speed rail, you're like, oh my God, this makes so much sense. Like, why can't we do this? And like, don't get me started on the U.S. The U.S. should have had this 20 or 30 years ago. So I'm saying that's how out of date railroads are. It's that I'm saying that even Thailand should have high-speed rail. And if I'm saying Thailand should have it, that means the U.S. should have had it 30 or 40 years ago.
Yeah, well, don't bring the U.S. into here. That just throws the bell curve all off and it makes it look like a weird pattern. But yeah, I like the train. There's something sort of like romantic and old school about traveling on the old diesel trains. And I really liked it when I was first in Thailand. Take the overnight train to Chiang Mai. You meet people, have some beers. Of course, you can't drink now because that terrible thing that happened. And I think they don't serve very good food anymore, and they don't let vendors come on. So it's lost a little bit of the luster. But the train network, for what it is and how much it costs, is very, very good.
It's literally old school. And like I said, I like it. But man, high-speed rail just makes so much sense. And I like these big infrastructure projects that governments, like I'm for government spending, and because it just creates massive jobs and it I do think it's a stimulus for the economy. So I'm not for like just totally foolish like boondoggle projects, and I'm not really for high-speed rail in Thailand if it ends up being some super corrupt waste of money that takes too long, and it's so that is an important asterisk.
Yeah.
So if high-speed rail becomes subject to like massive corruption and over budget and takes too long, then I'm not in favor of it.
No, I don't think that'll happen. Everything will be above board, and we'll have full transparency. I'm sure of it. You know, it's funny. I was talking about this tonight with our buddy James about this high speed train stuff, and he runs the very excellent website Future Southeast Asia, and he has a newsletter as well. And if you're at all interested in the transportation infrastructure projects, primarily rail in Southeast Asia, you should check out Future Southeast Asia. He writes some really good stuff. But, you know, Thailand will have the high-speed rail from Pattaya through Utapao up to northern Thailand, and then it's going to connect with the high-speed rail that exists already in Laos, and then further on to Kunming in China. So it's coming, but...
Hopefully. No, I mean, it really should exist. It really should exist between Bangkok and Chiang Mai. And I know there's a plan, and they've been talking about it forever.
Yeah.
So this is something it's not like Greg and I came up with this. Like, they've been talking about this forever. But we had to say, I think that... I always tell my students this interesting fact that the entire country of Thailand, from tip to tail, fits into Texas, just one state in the United States. It's a big state, and I just think going from southern Thailand to northern Thailand, it should be easier.
Yeah, it also fits into Alberta, which is my state or my province.
That's right.
In Canada.
That's right. It should be easier. And hopefully high-speed rail's coming. So
hopefully. The next one on our list is, the Gulf of Thailand. I think it would really be served with a lot more boat connections, ferry connections, maritime
I've never
connections.
understood this. I agree. This is a total mystery. And again, I'm ignorant. I don't understand boats and there's market issues, whether there's a market that could afford like long boat trips. But you and I have talked before about boats that could go from Hua Hin to Pattaya, kind of across. Pattaya, Rayong kind of juts out. So there is a little bit of a cross. I mean, it's not super long. And there was actually a boat, I think, from Hua Hin to Pattaya, but then I recently read that it's not running anymore. And our friend of the podcast, Richard Barrow, he's got a fascinating post about a car ferry he took from Satatip, which is, I think, a little bit south of Pattaya.
Oh, Sattahip.
Sattahip, right?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, Sattahip. Yeah, he took a car ferry from there all the way down to Songkhla in southern Thailand, like a boat that went
on the border of Malaysia.
Yeah, insane. He took a car ferry, and it took 21 hours, which sounds long, but if you can go from Pattaya down to the deep south in 21 hours, then you could go to Koh Tao in 8 hours or something.
Right.
But the bottom line is, generally you can't take a boat from like Koh Chang to Koh Samui. It sounds hilarious. Like if you say to a Thai person like, "Hey, can I get a boat from Koh Chang to Koh Samui?" They'll laugh in your face. Just because, you know what I mean? And again, I'm not saying that I know that this is financially workable. I don't know. Like maybe the length of the trip, the speed you have to go at, the cost of fuel, the market conditions, the number of people, maybe the ticket would have to cost 20,000 baht to make it viable. I don't know.
Right.
But I all I can say is in 20 years, I haven't seen almost anyone trying to do this stuff.
Right. I just measured on the map the distance from Chonburi province, from the part where it juts out into the ocean a bit, just underneath Pattaya, all the way across to Hua Hin is 97 kilometers. Not insurmountable.
Yeah, that's right. But there's just not a lot of traffic across the Gulf. And again, listeners, if you know a good reason for this, let us know. I've just never understood it, why there's a lack of boat connections like just across the Gulf. Maybe there's not a market for it. I don't know. I think it would be a cool thing. I think there'd be a lot of tourists who wouldn't mind going from Samui, because you could go from Samui to Phangan to Koh Tao, and then maybe go from there straight to like Pattaya. Like I think there would be. I mean, that's a long trip. I'm not saying that's a short trip. That's a long trip, but I think there's a lot of tourists who might want to do that. Might want to go from there to Pattaya.
Certainly,
that's not a crazy thing.
Yeah, it would certainly offer them another option. Why not? It might be a
Sure.
fun thing to do. And check this out. Have you heard of this? Speaking of the distance between Pattaya and Hua Hin, I just looked at this article from 2020. Pattaya to Hua Hin Bridge. Government discusses 900 billion baht investment.
A bridge. Now that might be something that I might laugh at. But yeah, but I like these infrastructure dreams. I think this is the way to think. I think government should be thinking big about this kind of thing. But man, I'm just at a loss. I don't know anything about boats or maritime rules or costs of all this stuff, but I don't understand why it's not more common that there aren't boats like darting across the Gulf, but there's not. Basically.
I'd love to see like one of those big ass hydrofoils that just skims across the top of the water. That'd be awesome.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one. What's the next one on the list?
So the next mystery I don't understand is the way klongs work in the city. Obviously, there is klong transportation. A fair number of people use klongs. But I feel that if you look at a map of Bangkok and look in detail, I feel like what they've done is they've built roads that basically block off klongs. And the klong traffic, it's actually fairly limited. But if you look at a map, you could make klongs run longer. So, for example, you can get klongs off Phetchaburi, like the main big klong off Phetchaburi, and you can go all the way down and you get off at Democracy Monument, which is not bad.
Right.
That's not bad. But why can't you take a klong, for example, from the city out into the Chao Phraya River? As far as I know, there's no klong boat from that side of the river, from the main side of the river, into the Chao Phraya. But over on our side of the river in Thonburi, you can get on a klong boat and go right out into the Chao Phraya, go down the river, cross over, and get off on a pier on the other side. No problem.
I've never understood the rules around boat travel in the Chao Phraya River. There's always this weird dearth of private watercraft. Like if this was a river in Canada or the States, I'm sure there'd be private boats. It doesn't have to be yachts, just like little speedboats and stuff zooming all over the place.
I'm with you. I mean, that's almost like a separate topic. Like I don't understand why there are no private boats on the Chao Phraya. But I mean, I guess tonight's topic is more about public transportation, but there should be why can't you go from a klong in the city out onto the Chao Phraya? Like I've never seen that. Am I crazy here?
No.
Like I checked with our buddy, friend of the podcast, Scott, who's an expert on travel in Thailand, and he confirmed what I said, that you can't take a klong boat from the Bangkok side of the river into the Chao Phraya, but you can get in Thonburi. You can do that very easily. You can get on a klong. That's what the point of the klong boats are. They go into the Chao Phraya, and some of them go across the river.
Right. I think that it's almost like a lot of the klong transport, especially in like Bangkok Noi and stuff like that, is more for sightseeing. Like it doesn't really get anywhere unless you happen to be going.
It can be. No, a lot of it is sightseeing, but you could use it to get to the other side of the river. That's possible. But I guess my point about klong boats is I feel that, okay, so Thailand or Bangkok had this old reputation, the Venice of the East, right?
Yeah.
And then, of course, Thailand modernized and the klongs, of course, got minimized. But I feel like there's never been a modern effort to modernize the klongs. Like, have you ever heard of, since you've been here, have you ever heard of them saying like, hey, we're going to cut this new klong over here to like extend this route? Like, I've never heard anything like that.
Oh,
like
I don't
the
think
emphasis,
so, yeah.
No, the emphasis is on roads. The emphasis is on MRT. The emphasis on BTS. We're going to extend this. We're going to dig this insane tunnel, like that costs billions of baht, instead of like, hey, let's just dig this canal over here. Like, it's like I feel that klong traffic is just kind of seen as, oh, that's the old school. Like we don't do that anymore. Like, okay, we still have it, but we're not developing it.
And they're overlooking it as a draw in itself. In and of itself, it's a massive draw for people and tourists and families and stuff.
Yeah, please, anyone out there, if you know why there are no klongs on the Bangkok side of the river where you can get on a klong boat and then go out into the Chao Phraya, please let me know. I'm baffled.
There's the biggest mystery for this for me is if you go to Wat Pak Nam Pasicharan, which is just not too far from Wang Wen Yai on the Thonburi side of the river. It's the one with that gigantic Buddha statue there.
Sure.
And also the temple that our good friend Pra Pandit lives at. that temple is at the confluence of three different klongs, and the one of them, it's a man-made klong, and it goes for 27 kilometers, a straight shot all the way out to the Tachin River in Samut Sakhon province. And it's a nice, beautiful, wide klong. I don't know how deep it is. I don't know if there's locks or if there's tidal issues or something like that. But many times I've said, how awesome would it be to go to the temple and just get a nice boat straight out into the province? It's
Sure.
Samut Sakhon is a beautiful part of the of sort of central Thailand there. So like, I really don't know why they don't utilize it more.
I'm with you. And again, I like your point about bringing up locks because I know what a lock is, but there could be like a water table issue. Like, one of my buddies back home, he has a master's degree in watershed hydrology.
Nerd.
And it's all about like underwater. Like, so there could be some elevation or altitude reason why
Sure.
you can't do these things. So, but we're going to bring it up nonetheless. So listeners out there, those of you who know, maybe you can help us out.
Right.
So go ahead and do the next one, Greg. It's related, but not exactly the same.
All right. Well, we're wondering why there are not any longer rides on the river. For instance, from Bangkok all the way down to Pak Nam, or even out to the Gulf or to the islands for that matter. Why couldn't we do like the Hangover 2 guys did and get on a boat in Bangkok and go down, maybe not all the way to Phuket, but maybe down to Koh Samet or something like that?
Right. Okay. Yeah. I'm baffled on this. And again, I confirmed this with our buddy Scott that you cannot get a boat. So obviously there are taxi boats on the Chao Phraya, of course,
Yeah.
and they're fairly extensive in the main part of the city. And then of course there are tourist boats going up the Chao Phraya where you can take a boat up to Ayutthaya. You can do that. But I confirmed with Scott that you cannot take a boat from just Bangkok, just basically to Samut Prakan. You cannot go all the way down. It stops, basically in Bangkok. You can't continue on and just take a boat down to like the mouth of the river. And now, of course, if you can't get to the mouth of the river, then of course you can't go out into the ocean. So wouldn't that be a great tourist thing just to go on like an ocean? Because technically you're going out into the Gulf of Thailand. Like, how come you can't take an ocean cruise, like a day cruise? We're going to go out into the Gulf of Thailand and then we're going to turn around and come back. Like, again, maybe there's I don't know anything about boats. Maybe there's a reason. Maybe it's dangerous because there's big cargo ships that come in and out of there. I don't know.
But it's not like they're going real fast. You're going to get smoked by one, like out of the blue.
Yeah, no, I don't.
I mean, when I went to watch the whales in the Gulf of Thailand, I had to drive all the way down to the Gulf and then get on a boat and go watch the whales.
Why can't you get on I understand it's a long distance and it would be a long boat ride, but why can't you get on a boat like, like at Taprajan, like where I work? Why can't I get on a boat at Taprajan and go whale watching? Like a day trip, like 2 meals, you can suntan on the roof and then we're going to go watch. Why can't I do that? Why can't I do that? Why can't I buy a ticket to Khao San and get on a boat at Taprajan? I'm very curious about this. And then, again, I know it would be a longer ride, but why can't you go to Pattaya? Why can't you take a boat from Bangkok to Pattaya? I realize the car is much faster and whatever and all that. But again, it's a little bit like the rail traffic. Like, it's kind of cool to travel by boat. And even if the bottom line is if Richard Barrow went from Pattaya to the south of Thailand in 21 hours, that means you could go from Bangkok to Pattaya in 6 hours or something like that.
Right. And like our friend Nomadic Matt says, it's not the destination, it's the journey.
There you go. So again, this is just a deep mystery to me. It fits in with what you said about why there are no private boats on the river. The river seems shockingly underutilized. The fact that you can't even go from Bangkok to Samut Prakan on a taxi boat is baffling.
It is weird. I don't get it. And then again, I'm sure that if we had someone from the waterworks department, they'd be like, "Oh, it's because ABC," and we'd be like, "All right,
maybe,
okay, yeah,
maybe." But Scott did speculate, and this is speculation. I don't want to put words in his mouth, but he speculated that you do have to cross provinces. And so he said there could be some bureaucratic problem. And again, this is an explanation, not a justification. But he speculated there might be some bureaucratic reason why the taxi boats don't go down there, like because you're crossing into a province, maybe, and you need, I don't know, like that should be a hurdle you could overcome.
I could take a car taxi out to the airport. That's in the next province.
That's right. That's right. Who knows? Who knows? But we want answers. Damn it.
We want answers.
Yeah, the last one, we've mentioned this before, but we're just going to mention it again.
This is the Big Daddy issue.
Yeah, it is the Big Daddy issue. There should be one travel card to rule them all. In other words, we should be able to go from the MRT to the BTS to buses, maybe even to klongboats or riverboats, the rail link, and we should be able to use just one card. Now, I was thinking that now technology has advanced so much that maybe with QR codes or something, maybe it wouldn't even have to be a card. Maybe it could just be an account. Like if I just had my Bangkok transportation account and had some money in there, like, and I could just swipe a QR code with my phone, like just wherever I went. But whether it's a card or whether it's a payment system, an e-banking solution, it's kind of annoying that taxis are separate from this and separate from buses, and everything is independent now.
Yeah, I think this is the most maddening one for me, because most, if not all, major cities in the region, indeed, perhaps the world, have an integrated single card transport system, at least to some extent. And it can be done. There are plenty of cities that are way more complicated than Bangkok. I think we all know the reason why it's not being done. I'm not going to call out any names or anything like that, but let's just say that it's a status quo issue. But it's so simple that it would make things so much better for everyone who rides on this. And that's hundreds of thousands of people every single day would find it way easier, way faster, maybe even a bit cheaper. I just don't know why it hasn't happened yet, or why someone hasn't just come in and kick some ass around and say, like, this is just embarrassing now,
Yep. And honestly, now with e-banking, you could just have a rule that says that every boat, every taxi has to have QR codes. So if you know what I mean, it's like that's just an immediate solution, just directly to my bank account. So I could just go on the SkyTrain, the MRT, like a taxi, and just boom, scan a QR code and just transfer the money. Even if I could do that, it would be a step up.
Yeah, you know what I like about the MRT now, the subway system, is that I can just tap my credit card on the machines when I use them. I don't need.
Oh, nice!
I don't need to buy a card.
I haven't tried that.
Yeah, I was really excited to find out about it. I just only recently learned about it. And you don't need to line up. You don't need to buy a card. You just beep your credit card on the way in and then beep it on the way out.
Oh,
and
shit.
It charges it to your credit card.
Is that MRT and BTS or just MRT?
Just MRT as far as I know.
See, that's the problem.
Yeah,
that's what we're talking about right there.
That's a great addition that makes it much easier for me, but it's only on one line. So it might as well not even really exist for people who have to travel on multiple lines. It's silly.
Agreed.
And I have one last thing here. This is not really about infrastructure. It's not a question. It's just a suggestion that popped into my head recently. And I think it would make a really big improvement, mostly to people on the street, but it also utilizes the rail network. What do you think about this, Ed? I think that they should spend some money and paint designs or bright colors or something along the underside of all of the elevated train tracks in Bangkok.
Interesting. You mean like on the pillars and underneath basically underneath the rail line? Underneath
the rails. Here's my justification for this, because you look up and it's just dull and gray. Bangkok has a ton of gray, boring, dull cement everywhere. And if you painted it on the bottom of the train tracks, it wouldn't get faded by the intense tropical sun. It would be in shade all the time. It would be protected from the rain and the elements. I like it. It would brighten things up. You could do a graffiti thing. You could make it an art project. It would be colorful photo opportunities. I think it would really improve just the way the city looks.
Genius suggestion. It's funny what this reminds me of. Back in the day, again, 2003, 2004, since I'm old and I've been here a long time, I was friends with a woman from France. And I remember her hating the SkyTrain expansions. Like when she saw those pillars and they're putting in the rail, she's like, it's so ugly.
Yeah.
And it's funny, I was thinking about the convenience and the functionality, But she's right that it just creates shadows. Like the bottom line is,
shadows.
A lot of times when you're walking on Sukhumvit or these main roads, it's like you're in shadow, and it's kind of grim. There is a grimness to these giant cement superstructures.
Yeah, exactly. It shadows, it dead spots, nothing grows underneath them. And of course, they try to do the little thing where they like wrap a pillar in plants or something like that. And then after a few months, they're all dead anyway, and they take them down. And then you're just left with this boring gray pillar that's usually wrapped with some advertising logo feces, to borrow a phrase from George Carlin.
It could be the graffiti capital of the world.
Yeah, and then, when I was in Kuala Lumpur recently, a lot of public buildings and places, mailboxes and pillars and things like that had really, really cool, colorful, artistic graffiti on it. And it looked beautiful, interesting, wonderful.
Love it. Great idea.
Yeah. So there we go, folks. That's just a couple of queries, a couple of questions, a couple of maybe some suggestions even that we have about transportation in Bangkok and Thailand. If you have answers to any of the things that we're still struggling with, please let us know the answers, because that's what we're all about. And like Ed said, we are not experts in this, but I think this is probably a few things that a lot of people think about from time to time. And
we got questions. We got questions.
And I think if a lot of our questions or suggestions were implemented, it would just make it a better experience for everyone.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
Heck yeah.
The point is, everyone should listen to us more often.
No doubt.
All right, let's do something we call Would You Rather, where one of us picks two contrasting situations tied to Thailand to debate and choose which one we'd prefer. Now, Ed, this week it's over to you.
Now, this is kind of random. I actually haven't been to one of these in a long time. But I think I came across a story about a big one in the news, and it just started me thinking, would you rather attend a Thai wedding? And I mean more of a traditional Thai wedding. For example, your wedding ceremonies and everything was a little bit of a hybrid thing. But if you would you rather go to a Thai wedding done in kind of the way they usually are versus a wedding back home?
Oh, this is an interesting one. We've done funerals recently, right? We did a Western funeral,
That's right.
So we're really bookending things here.
Yeah, the Thai funerals, it's a different issue because Thai funerals are often over many days.
Yeah.
But a Thai wedding is, it's a big reception thing. But I'm curious what your take is on Thai weddings. Not necessarily your wedding, but just I don't know if you've been to. I don't know. I've been to these Thai weddings that are kind of like big productions, and it's basically like a reception with a lot of photographs.
Yeah.
And I'm curious what your take on is compared to the average Canadian or American wedding.
Man, I loved my wedding. So for those that don't know, I mean, my wedding was a real hybrid. We had the Thai ceremony in the morning, and then we had the big party dance dinner in the evening. So it was a little bit of both. Most real like non-hybrid Thai weddings I've been to are basically a big banquet somewhere where you show up and then you have, you sit down and you drink, have food, and then you listen to speeches and speeches and speeches, endless speeches by people you don't know. And then it's basically a dance, maybe, I think, or just continue drinking and eating. That's kind of it.
Actually, they usually don't have dancing. So you're probably going to guess my answer. Like, I'm not a big fan of these traditional Thai weddings. Because it, for one thing, it usually doesn't include the ceremony. So usually if there's a Thai ceremony, it's like at some other time, like earlier in the day.
Yeah, and that's usually only for very close friends and family.
That's right. So in the West, usually you go to, not always, of course, but you go to some type of either religious ceremony or legal ceremony, and then you move on to the reception, which is kind of the party. But in Thailand, it's mostly just the party thing. But it's also typically just a giant meal with like a production. Like, to be honest, I haven't heard that many speeches. Some I've heard speeches, but a lot of times there's just like a big meal and then like a video production. And I don't think I've ever danced at a Thai wedding. Like, I don't think I've ever even done that one time.
Yeah, I'm with you too. I think Western weddings are more about celebrating the union, where it seems to me a lot of the Thai weddings are more about recognizing the union,
Interesting. Yeah, it's not that I don't enjoy Thai weddings at all. It's just a different thing. Yeah. And to me it's almost mostly about eating.
Yeah.
And it's mostly about eating and taking pictures. And I feel like I don't know, like Western weddings have this, to me, have this interesting thing where you start out very formal and proper, and you go to like the church, or of course it could be some type of secular ceremony, and then you have kind of dinner, and then maybe speeches, so everything, and then you have a reception where people are getting drunk, and people are just getting drunker. So by the end of like a Western wedding, it's usually like a little bit wild.
Yeah,
like there's typically like a wilder aspect
Right.
towards the end. Like Western weddings tend to fall apart, whereas you know what I mean.
Much like a lot of Western marriages. Oh, zing!
Yeah, but Thai weddings, like they don't have it. I've never experienced wildness at a proper Thai wedding. Now, some of my buddies' weddings here in Thailand, I've experienced wildness, but I'm not. I'm talking about two Thai people getting married.
Well, with the friends you and I keep, that's not so unusual.
That's right.
But yeah, I will sum up my feelings. Like when I get invited to a Thai wedding, my reaction is, "Oh, lovely! This will be great. I'm very honored to go and pay my respects and wish." Best wishes and blessings on the happy couple. When I get invited to a Western wedding, my reaction is, "Hot damn, this is going to be a fun night."
Yeah,
You know?
Exactly. Okay, so that's my difference. So I think you and I are both on the same page.
Yeah.
So I prefer Western weddings. Thai weddings are not horrible or not bad. It's just a different thing.
I will say this:
it's a
do you know
different
the you know the answer to this? Do they do registrations and gift lists and all that crap in Western weddings now? It's been a long time since I've been to one
Sure,
in the West.
of course, sure, yeah, of course.
I will say I am a big fan of just put some money in an envelope and give it to us. That just
Interesting.
I love that part of it.
That's an interesting little twist. It's almost a sort of separate topic, but yeah, in a way, it's simpler just giving the money.
Just give me
simpler.
money.
Yeah.
I don't need a toaster. I got a toaster. Just give me money.
All right. A final thanks to our patrons who support the show. Patrons get a ton of cool perks and the warm, fuzzy feeling knowing that they're helping in our never-ending quest for cool content. Find out more by clicking support on our website. And connect with us online. We're Bangkok Podcast on social media, bangkokpodcast.com on the web, or simply bangkokpodcast@gmail.com. We love hearing from our listeners and always reply to our messages.
Right on. You can also listen to each episode on YouTube. You can send us a voicemail through our website that will feature on the show. I'm off Twitter now. A few too many Nazis on there for me, but you can now find me on Mastodon at bkkgreg@home.social. So thanks for listening, everyone. I'll see you back here next week.
No doubt. Like, man, if I could get on a klong, over here and just go to Topper John, like, why can't I do that? Yeah. Like the klongs are there, like the river's there.
I remember when you moved into your place on the Klong. That was young and idealistic, Ed. I gotta get a boat guy.
I really thought, I didn't know that there was no. I mean, that's a whole nother topic. We gotta.